Hello, my name is Rebecca Guayo, and this is my critical assignment, Prospectus Framework PowerPoint. My topic is in regard to Compliance Director's concerns about the merger of 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485. In Chapter 1, we will cover the introduction. Within this chapter, we will review the background of the problem, statement of the research problem, purpose statement, research question, significance of the problem, definitions, and the organization of the study. Background and statement of the research. All medical device companies operating in the U.S. market must be compliant with the FDA's 21 CFR 820. Current good manufacturing practices, also known as CGMPs, refer to the quality management system for items that are subject to FDA regulations, such as food, pharmaceutical, biologics, and devices. The CGMP regulations are contained within 21 CFR Part 820, as it guarantees that all medical devices developed and produced for the U.S. market are safe and adhere to acceptable quality standards throughout the entire development process. Last year, the FDA announced they intend to harmonize and modernize their quality system regulation for medical devices. The revision will supplant the existing requirements with the specifications of an international consensus standard for medical devices manufacturers, known as ISO 13485. The revisions are intended to reduce compliance and record-keeping burdens on device manufacturers by harmonizing domestic and international requirements. This dissertation aims to collect the concerns and inputs of 25 compliance directors relating to the transition of 21 CFR 820 to ISO 13485 through a qualitative method approach, including surveys and interviews. Purpose statement. The purpose of the study is to identify the concerns of compliance directors as it relates to the transition of 21 CFR 820 to ISO 13485. My research questions are: what are the major discrepancies between 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485 according to the perception of a compliance director? What are foreseeable challenges that a company and/or manufacturer can face when 21 CFR 820 transitions to ISO 13485? And last but not least, how can the FDA's 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485 standards merge in efforts to add all 8 ISO clauses into the FDA's 15 subparts? Significance of the problem. Despite the FDA wanting to merge 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485, these two regulations have different viewpoints in what a quality system regulation is. If the FDA merges 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485, they will be faced with many complexities that can affect companies and manufacturers. Definitions and organization of the study. In this slide, you can see some of my definitions I have listed. These are the main ones that I will be using in my dissertation. This dissertation is structured by 5 chapters. Chapter 1 covered in this section was the introduction. Chapter 2 will provide a literature review. Chapter 3 will describe the research methodology, data collection, and limitations. Chapter 4 will present the results of the study, and finally Chapter 5 will discuss the findings, implications, and a conclusion. Chapter 2, Review of Literature. In this Chapter 2, we will be reviewing the agency's history and role, standards, background, and purpose, the problem, current data, and the importance of pillars in public administration. Agency's history and role. The Food and Drug Administration is the oldest comprehensive consumer protection agency in the United States federal government. The 1906 Pure Food and Medications Act, a statute that took 25 years to pass, forbade interstate trade in contaminated and falsely branded food and drugs. This marked the beginning of the FDA's regulatory activities. By the 1930s, investigative reporters, consumer advocacy groups, and federal regulators had launched a campaign for stronger regulatory control by making public a list of harmful products that had been approved under the 1906 law, such as radioactive drinks, the blinding mascara known as Lashler, and worthless cures for diabetes and tuberculosis. Thus, the new Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act was signed into law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The law established new food safety regulations, increased enforcement authority, authorized factory inspections, regulated medical devices and cosmetics under federal regulation. It was the birth of the modern FDA. The FD&C Act role is to regulate standards that specify how much control the FDA has over certain goods. The FDA is obligated to create, publish, and put into effect regulations to fulfill all the requirements of the FD&C Act that pertain to medical devices and radio-emitting items. Now, ISO, also known as International Organization for Standardization, was created in London in 1946 by 65 representatives from 25 countries, with one goal in mind: to ensure products and services that are safe, reliable, and of good quality. ISO members consist of specialists who share information and develop consensus-based, globally applicable international standards to foster innovation and address pressing issues. These groups exchange knowledge and best practices in addition to participating in the development of standards. Since the founding, ISO releases monthly reports on its technical committees, published standards, and organizational and member-related administrative changes. ISO standards provide a strong basis for the development of national and international regulation, helping save time and reduce barriers to international trade. Standards background and purpose, and the problem. Since producing high-quality goods is in everyone's best interest, the governing body in the USA, the Food and Drug Administration, has introduced several initiatives and compliance laws, such as having a quality system regulation known as Title 24 Code of Federal Regulations CFR Part 820. Part 820 amendment took a lot of work, but was finally published on October 7th of 1996 and became effective on June 1st of 1997. 21 CFR 820 is divided into 15 subparts A through 11, each of which focuses on a different aspect of a manufacture of medical devices. Without prescribing a specific method for establishing these features, the FDA has defined in the QS regulation the basic element of what a quality system shall incorporate. The same year, the FDA published 21 CFR 820, ISO published ISO 13485, a quality management system for medical devices, which are requirements for establishing and maintaining a quality system as well. ISO 13485 is divided into 8 clauses. An organization must be able to supply related services for medical devices that consistently meet customer and applicable regulatory standards, which is why ISO 13485 sets requirements for a quality management system. Unlike in the United States, where medical device companies are legally required to comply with FDA quality system regulation outlined in 21 CFR Part 820, ISO 13485 certification is only required for companies that wish to market their medical devices in international markets like Europe or Canada. Last year, the FDA announced they would be proposing a merger with the Device Current Good Manufacturing Practice requirements of the Quality System Regulation, 21 CFR 820, to align more closely with ISO 13485 standard. If finalized, the long-awaited and long-delayed proposed regulation will rename 21 CFR 820 as Quality Management System Regulation, QMSR, and will align U.S. good manufacturing practices with international norms. The effort is estimated to save medical device companies hundreds of millions of dollars in compliance costs. However, agencies like Regulatory Professional Society, also known as RAPS for short, already sees an inconsistency between FDA and ISO standards regulatory framework, leaving gaps for possible inconsistencies. Current data and the importance of pillars in public administration. After careful research for the concerns of medical device directors regarding this transition, the information does not exist, thus leaving a gap. The FDA and ISO have been publishing their take on their own version of a quality management system for years, but not that they will be merging and referencing. The need to know the concerns of those affected is paramount. Some of the concerns that will be addressed in this study will be the possible lack of transparency, accountability, efficiency, and effectiveness, as these are major pillars in public administration. If the FDA does not provide 100% transparency, it will lack in accountability. In any management structure, accountability is important. In terms of ethics and governance, accountability is synonymous with answerability, blameworthiness, liability, and the expectation of accounting. Accountability is one of the head beliefs that support public administration, as it is a pivotal part of government oversight that guarantees moral commitment. The theory aligned with accountability is the bureaucracy theory by Max Weber. It is an optimal model for the board and its organization to bring an association's power structure into center. Weber believed that an association should have a characteristic progressive design with clear standards, guidelines, and lines of power to govern it. It is crucial that FDA's transition is efficient and effective. Efficiency and effectiveness are also major pillars of public administration, as these two essential standards of policy management should be made considering the public's well-being. Both should be available in any legitimate office. Efficiency alludes to accomplishing an objective by offering the most ideal type of assistance for minimal measure of cash and its assets. It is generally critical to offer ideal public types of assistance for minimal measure of cost, particularly during the present monetary difficulties. The theory aligned with efficiency and effectiveness is Taylorism, or also known as scientific management. The theory of management analyzes and synthesizes workflows. Its main objective is improving economics efficiency. It was one of the earliest attempts to apply science to the engineering of process to management. Taylorism theory can be used in the study to help align 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485 by assisting with smoothing out discrepancies and helping increase efficiency in the medical device standards. Overall, it is crucial that FDA's transition is efficient and effective in order to be transparent and accountable. Chapter 3 covers the methodology. Within this chapter, we will review the purpose statement, the research questions, research design, population, sample, instrumentation, data collection, data analysis, limitations, and a brief summary. My purpose statement was, the purpose of this study is to identify the concerns of compliance directors as it relates to the transition of 21 CFR 820 to ISO 13485. My research questions were, what are some major discrepancies between 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485 according to the perception of a compliance director? What are foreseeable challenges that a company and a manufacturer face when 21 CFR 820 transitions to ISO 13485? And how can the FDA's 21 CFR 820 and ISO 13485 standards merge in efforts to add all 8 ISO clauses into the FDA's 15 subparts? For my research design, this dissertation will use a qualitative research approach to interview QARA directors one-on-one. Qualitative research techniques are going to be made to assist and help understand how a target audience behaves and thinks about a particular subject. Overall, the interviewer or researcher will seek to comprehend the subject's intentions and emotions. Population and sample. The population that is going to be utilized in this study are going to be current online members of the Regulatory Affairs Professional Society, also known as RAPS. The sample, the researcher will select 25 individuals from a pre-questionnaire link posted on RAPS online forum of Regulatory Affairs Professional Society. Instrumentation, data collection, and data analysis. The instrumentation utilized in this study will be an online pre-questionnaire link posted on the RAPS website, an online forum. Data will be collected through the post, as it will obtain a link that will send individuals to a Microsoft Forum pre-questionnaire. If they qualify, they will be set up for an interview. Data will be scored and analyzed by coding data into themes. Some of the limitations that I could possibly face is analysis and interpretation may take a while due to the volume of data. Other limitations of this study include the population size, the classification, and the organization. This study takes place on an online forum which is global when I am trying to find compliance directors within the USA, so I could hit a bit of a limitation there given my selection has to be limited. Conclusion and faith integration. Before we conclude, I found this verse that said, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter." In conclusion, instead of rewriting the QSR to align closer to the U.S. regulatory framework of ISO standard, the FDA proposed to incorporate ISO 13485 by reference rather than rewrite the regulation in its entirety. As we can see in the literature review, 21 CFR 820 framework is very different from ISO 13485 standards and could create possible inconsistencies. The FDA explains that there are also a number of terms and definitions in ISO 13485 that would create inconsistencies with the FD&C Act and its implementing regulations, and thus will be superseded by its own definitions for those terms. Through a qualitative method approach, including surveys and interviews, this research can help provide new knowledge to the field. An investigative perception of compliance directors' concerns can help the gap of any possible discrepancies in the merge. Thank you.